Alright, some unfortunate stuff to talk about today. I usually like to keep it light, but when we have bad things happen, we have to talk about those things too, just to keep some transparency here with whatever products or games I'm showing on the channel or playing. The ROG Ally has been having some really serious SD card problems. I've seen it all over Reddit. My close friend who was in the video in which we went to pick up the Ally, he's had some very serious issues with multiple SD cards on the Ally. All 1 terabyte cards, all fried, not usable after this issue happened. So let me kind of explain what's going on in our case. And I tried to replicate this issue because he's had it happen so many times with so many different cards. He basically came to the conclusion that whenever he would try to download a larger game, in his case Spider-Man, it would download a little bit of it and then it would just crash. The card would just stop writing, it would just go to 0, it wouldn't write anymore, and it would lock up to read-only mode. You can't do anything. You can't format it, you can't erase anything on it. If it lets you erase things on it, it will just come right back when you plug in the SD card again or restart your computer. So I said, you know, I haven't been using an SD card in my Ally. I've actually just been using the internal storage, and this is actually my Steam Deck SD card. Now, I don't think it's a brand related issue with this brand just sucking or something. This card has been good to me for over a year now. I've used it in my Steam Deck, I've played big games on it, I've downloaded large files, I've ran Modern Warfare 2 off of it, I've ran Destiny, you name it, it's been good. Also, I've seen some claims that the Lexar 1 terabyte, this card, is getting stuck in either the Ally or the Steam Deck. I have not had any issues with the cards getting stuck, or this card getting stuck in either of the systems, and I've inserted it and taken it out so many times in the last like 2 days, so don't know what that's about. So I'm not going to blame this, I'm actually going to blame the actual system for causing this issue. Since my buddy said it's happening with large downloads, what did I do? I put my SD card in here and I tried to download Destiny 2. It started off great, it was going quick, the write speeds were normal, everything was working the way it's supposed to. And then when I got to about 37 gigs, it went downhill and the download said disk write error, disk read error, just gave me an error on Steam. And then I tried to go into the card and delete files, would not let me delete files. And then I tried to format it, and then it went to, that's when it told me that it was write protected and it was read only, which is the same issue that he was having with all of his cards. They were all pretty much locking into read only mode after trying to download a big game. In his case, he said that the SD card was causing his system to go slow and to act weird. In my case, I have not had any issues actually putting the SD card in and going to the SD card and seeing the files on there. Since it is read-only, I could still see the files. I just can't add anything there or delete anything. I've tried formatting this on my Switch and on my MacBook and on my actual PC, and it would not let me format on any of them using any method that you can think of. I tried also clearing the read-only attribute by going into the terminal, by going into disk utility or disk part. I've tried software to shred the card. I've tried everything, and he's tried even more, and none of it works. So the card is basically useless right now, which sucks because this is a 1 terabyte card that, you know, was very useful, and all of my Steam Deck games were on it. Since I do have a 64 gigabyte model, I can't really use it until I get a new card, which I do have a new card coming in. I will not be using that card on my Ally. I think I'm just going to wait and see what happens, see if they give us any updates on this. I don't think RMAing the ROG Ally is going to do much for me here, because this seems like it would happen with no matter what system I have, because if it happened to my friend who has been using his system in one way and I haven't even used an SD card at all, and I just happened to put one in and try to download a big game and it happened to me, that means it could happen on no matter what system I get next. I think this could be a SD card reader driver error. Something with the SD card reader is not working properly. And I know some people are saying that the heat from the system is causing issues like this. I don't think this was caused by a heat related issue. I don't think it just burned the card enough to just lock it into read only. I was in silent mode and it was downloading just fine. It was very sudden, very abrupt, the way it just went down and told me, okay, disk error. Something with the reader and something with writing specifically. maybe software related when it's writing or something, because if it was just the reader, I don't think the card would pop up. And that's another issue I've seen or read about, is people not being able to see their card when putting it in the reader. The card pops up just fine, so that's why I don't think it's really the reader or just being able to see the card. Because once I plug that in and go to File Explorer, I can see my card in here. Scroll down, SD, and there's all the files that won't delete no matter what I do. The interesting thing is, on the Ally, when I try to format, it actually like lets me, but it doesn't actually format it. See, it says format complete. But if we close this and go back, everything's gonna still be there, and you can't delete it. From the disk management screen, if I try to delete from here, delete volume, it will not let me delete it. It'll just keep coming back. Look, it went away and it came right back with the same amount of free space that was on there already. It should technically clear whatever's on there and just give me all of my space back, but it's not doing that. Now, what's also interesting about the disk management screen is that on the Ally particularly, under disk 1 or wherever it says where the SD card is, on any other device that I plug it into, it says read only. But on here, it lets me kind of manipulate it, but then it just puts everything back. On all the other devices, it just says read only, and I can't format, I can't write to it, I can't download anything, I can't do anything. So in its current state, when I've tried downloading a game to this card, it'll download, which is weird because it'll write, and then right after it's done writing, it'll reset and say that there was an error with the download and it can't find the files. It just like deletes the files immediately after downloading them here because it can't write to the card. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole issue. I've seen some people say that it's because of the 1 terabyte cards. I've seen some people say 512 cards work fine, but I also don't know if everyone's trying to download these larger files, but technically these larger files should work. If I download Spider-Man to this SD card, it should work. Another thing is, if they're using an adapter, a USB hub or a dongle or something, I was trying to find one over there, but I don't have one in arm's reach, but you know, just a USB-C hub that has a card reader, it downloads just fine when you're using that. So that tells me it's something with this reader and its software specifically, the drivers or the hardware in this case. I don't know how to pinpoint if it's the actual physical reader that's causing this, but I just have a hard time believing that when the reader's doing its job in terms of showing me the card. It's when it starts writing things to the card that things get weird, so I don't know. Some people have been using the Genesis SD card reader drivers to speed up their, or have a more consistent write speed, which is weird because that is a software thing, and the issue that I had was with the writing. So I don't know if there's any way to fix how it writes or whatever. I'm not some tech guru engineer, software engineer. I just wanted to share my experience in running into this issue that is a pretty major one. Imagine setting up like a bunch of emulators, a bunch of games, and then suddenly the Steam Summer Sale's going on and you buy a bigger game, you buy Red Dead 2 and you download that and it just crashes your card and sends it to read only and you can't do anything else with it. That is a pretty serious problem, especially when people are buying these cards, and these 1 terabyte cards aren't the cheapest cards out there. Asus themselves are offering a fix in the form of a better default fan curve, which is supposed to have the system run cooler, but that tells me that they think that the SD card problems are heat related, when I think it's much more than just the system heating up if I was on silent mode and the whole thing that I just explained happened. So I don't necessarily think it's always a result of the heat. I don't know, they're just gonna have to look into it more and see if this is, you know, fixable via software, because people are just buying cards, spending money, and losing their money, or I mean, they could return the cards, but it's just unfortunate that this is happening. Some people are returning their system and then getting a new one and it's happening again. I think this hopefully could be fixed with some form of update rolled out, driver update, something. I'm just not going to be putting a card in here because I'm not going to risk it. I personally was breaking my brain trying to figure out how to reformat that card and try to just get it back to its original state. I wasn't even worried about making it work on the Ally. I just wanted to make my card right again so that I can put it back in my Steam Deck, which I couldn't do, and I have to get a new card for my Steam Deck. I won't be putting a card in here. I'll just be using the internal storage. I recommend for anyone right now looking into expanding their storage to use an external drive or an external card reader, or upgrading their SSD. That's a good option, but right now using the card reader seems to be risky, and RMAing even seems risky because you might get a unit that does the same exact thing. At that point, if you're not okay with any of these options and you just think, you know, that's too big of a problem for a system like this to have and you just want to return it, I do not blame anyone for doing that either. Me personally, I am happy that at least the system has 512 gigabytes and external card readers work as well as hard drives, so there's also that option. I mostly use my ROG Ally at home, so these are viable options for me, and I get to still, you know, I don't want to return this and not be able to cover the device for a set amount of time, especially when I make videos about it. I was on a streak of just showing you guys games and me enjoying the Ally because I wasn't using an SD card, and then I was like, all right, let me see if this is actually an issue, and turns out it is. But I'm not going to let that stop me from enjoying the device and continue my coverage on it and playing different games on here. I also had a power outage. During my streak of posting all these games and stuff, I had a power outage, and then I tried this card thing, and it was just like very demotivating, and I'm ready to just leave it all behind and move on to the good stuff, the games. If we get a fix for this SD card issue, or if it's addressed any further, I will talk about it as well. I thought I should just share my experience with everyone, spread some awareness. If you're going to be using an SD card, be careful. If you're going to be buying cards, make sure you keep a receipt around or whatever if you're going to try one to see if it works. Best Buy is probably really upset right now because people are probably returning hella SD cards, or just the system in general, or getting complaints about things not working. Things like this are expected with a first generation device. I just think it's up to Asus to make things right and offer solutions for all of these problems in due time. I think if they do that, people should be okay. As of right now, the Ally is supposed to play PC games portably, and for me personally, it's done a marvelous job at that. So I am content with using this for what it's, you know, supposed to be for. As long as I'm able to play my games and not run into issues playing the games on the system itself, then I will keep the system and I will continue playing it on here for the channel, and I won't have to worry about all this returning the system and card stuff. Like, if they fix it, they fix it, but for now I'm just gonna do me, play the games, enjoy it. It was a little bit upsetting. It was a little bit of a downer to not only one, have a power outage for a few days, and then two, just fry my SD card damn near on purpose, because I was warned, I was told, hey, if you try to download a big game, it might do the same thing, and it did. Now I get to share the information, and I get to stop him from RMAing his device for thinking that his unit particularly was broken, because he might get another one. The one he got could have been this one, and it was going to do the same thing. Some of us have to be test dummies, and that's just the nature of things. For people that want to wait and see what happens, that's probably a smart thing to do. Just wait, see how things get sorted out, how things get fixed over time, and then you can make your decision on buying the device. But right now, these are things that are going on with it. But yeah, I'll keep you guys updated if anything changes. I will not be talking about this any further. I will comment back and share experiences or things that I've tried if people are curious, but I am going to leave the SD card issue behind. I'm done trying to troubleshoot it. I'm done trying to reformat the card. I am just going to continue playing my games because I feel like I'm spending too much time trying to figure that out when nothing has worked for the past few days, and I don't want to let that stop me from continuing to make videos and to enjoy the device. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys found this informative. There was nothing enjoyable about a broken SD card, but maybe you took something from it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will catch you guys on the next one. The next one, I promise, we'll be having fun.